Welcome everyone to Gorelock's Ultimate Shadowlands Raid Prep Guide. With pre-patch fast approaching, today we are going to be covering everything you need to know to succeed going into Shadowlands' first raid, Castle Nathria. Let's get right to it then, since there is so much to cover. Shadowlands was set to release on Monday, October 26th. However, it has been delayed. Pre-patch is now confirmed for October 13th. For those in the EU, this of course will be the next day, Wednesday, as always. As for Shadowlands, many are speculating that it will either drop on November 10th or December 8th, making it a 4 or 8 week pre-patch, which falls within the range of previous expansions. Personally, I'm hoping for a longer pre-patch given the current messy state of Shadowlands and the needed balancing required. Assuming nothing changes, Castle Nathria will be releasing only 2 weeks after the Shadowlands drops, with normal and heroic difficulties, as well as PvP and M+ Season 1. The following week will be the release of Mythic Castle Nathria and Raidfinder Wing 1. And thus the race to World First will also begin. Raidfinder Wing difficulties will continue to release every 2 weeks after that. It is worth noting, though, that if Blizzard does choose to go with the longer pre-patch, there is a good possibility that Castle Nathria will also be delayed until January 2021. Pre-patch is often the time when many Mythic raiding guilds and players alike begin deciding if they want to keep their current mains or swap to a new class for the upcoming raid tier. Additionally, it is also the time new players and those seeking to start doing raiding alike can get an even playing field to catch up with. Pre-patch will contain a host of changes that will be included with the release of Shadowlands, with the exception of endgame Shadowlands content. This means all the new balancing and back-end changes will be implemented, but all the new systems and progressions after level 50 will still be locked. This means no level 51 to 60, covenants, soulbinds, conduits, or legendary powers, or the new M+ or PvP season just yet. Let's go over the biggest changes coming to pre-patch and Shadowlands. First off, let's talk about the level squish. On the release of pre-patch, the massive squish will happen to your level, gear, damage, literally everything. This chart shows you the level you will be squished to post-changes. The most important thing to note here is that all current level 120s will find themselves at level 50. With this, your stat scaling will also be dramatically altered, but I will go into that at a different time as it changes on a class-by-class basis. In addition to the squish, the Unpruning will occur, and many old abilities will be returning to many classes and specs, such as Paladin auras. A few classes and specs have had complete revamps, such as Ellie and Enhancement Chamois, Shadow Priest, Holy and Prot Paladin having Holy Power returning, and many more. Additionally, Fury Warriors, Frost DKs, and Monks can now once again choose between dual wielding and two-handed weapons. Among all the changes, the biggest one is the new target caps Blizzard seems dead set on implementing. These new caps will drastically change the way that many specs play. These target caps will affect every class to some extent, but primarily will be affecting melee classes the most. Blizzard's reasoning behind this is them saying they want to differentiate between AoE skills and cleave abilities. However, the lines on this and many other factors are very blurry, hence the community pushback against it. The TLDR is that most melee spec abilities are getting target caps between 5 and 8 targets, with 5 and 8 being the most common numbers. Many primary target skills with fall-off damage on secondary targets, such as DHI Beam, will be getting something called square root scaling. This topic alone could take a very long time to cover, so instead I urge everyone to research the changes to their specific classes. I will link some important information regarding the target caps in the description below, as well as in my Discord server. On pre-patch release, The corruption system will be completely removed, and all existing corrupted gear will have their positive and negative effects disabled. This includes contaminants. Additionally, PvP trinket honor talents like Gladiator's Medallion, Adaption, and Relentless are being removed. These effects are being moved to actual trinkets in the Shadowlands, purchasable by a new currency of honor points and conquest points at level 60. Note these are not the same as the current honor and conquest points in BFA. Additionally, Legion legendaries have been disabled, making them unusable on Twinks and players that are leveling to keep it fair. Pre-patch will include a host of changes, such as the newcomer mentor system, where veteran players will be able to help and answer questions of newcomers in game, the leveling revamp, where on your first time through, you will now have to level in Exile's Reach, a new starter zone, and at level 10, you can then choose which expansion you would like to level in. So if you love Wrath of the Lich King, you can level through that. You have profession changes to craft relevant gear and potions, and streamline allied race unlocking. Additionally, pre-patch will introduce new customization options, a new character creation screen, the updated barbershop in which you can now also change your gender and druids can change their form appearances. Lastly, transmogs have also been giving an update as well, and a few other quality of life and graphical updates as well. Lastly, pre-patch will also be a great time to gear up, as rumor has it, the pre-patch events will be dropping gear equivalent to 8.3 normal and heroic raid level gear. Alright, now let's get to the really good stuff. Let's talk about level 60 and going into endgame progression for the Shadowlands. After hitting level 60 and completing the initial Covenant campaign for the first time, which means you will want to do it while you are leveling, you will be allowed to choose a Covenant. As Blizzard has made clear, this choice is important and semi-permanent. Here you will be given a last chance to test each ability as well. After you have chosen your Covenant and done the associated introduction questline, you will be rewarded the Covenant signature ability as well as the Covenant class ability. Additionally, you will unlock the endgame progression systems. Alright, next let's talk about Soulbinds and Conduits. Soulbinds are souls that you'll meet during your Covenant campaign that will aid you during your travels. They function essentially as another talent tree, with each Covenant having 3 for 12 in total. The abilities granted by these Soulbinds vary widely between quality of life abilities, like repairing armor and increased currency intake, or DPS throughput in form of flat damage, stat increases, or percentage damage increases. These Soulbind abilities are the same for every class and spec. The first 2 you will unlock very quickly, while the third one will take months. Similarly, each row in a Soulbind's tree will be unlocked as you obtain a higher Renown rank. Renown is just a weekly capped, time-gated resource. Current sources are saying it will take about 13 weeks to unlock all Soulbinds and their full trees, which means you will be roughly gaining about 3 Renown a week. As the highest rank, you need 39. The empty slots you see in these trees are called conduits. There are 3 types of conduits. Potency, which increase the power of class and Covenant offensive abilities. Finesse conduits that offer utility options like additional movement. And endurance conduits, which usually decrease the cooldown or increase the strength of defensive abilities. These vary very widely between the classes and specs, each having multiple options. Think of them as like Azerite traits that you can pick and choose, but much, much less powerful. Conduits have 15 ranks, with sources hinting that you can get up to rank 7 during the first patch. It is worth noting that all specs of your classes currently share the same soulbind trees, and you can only change the conduits you put in once per week. However, that was the old build. A recent update, Blizzard will be implementing a new energy like system in which you will be able to gain 1 charge a day and store up to 10. And you will be able to swap out 1 conduit for 1 energy. Additionally, when you get an energy, you will, when you get a new conduit, you will also get an energy. However, you can also switch the path in the tree as often as you like. The Great Vault is Shadowlands' new and improved version of the weekly chest. I will keep this one really simple. The more you do of a certain type of gameplay, the more options for gear you can get. PvP, M+, and raiding each can unlock up to 3 choices, for a total of 9. The gear level for those choices are based on the difficulty of content you do. This means if you complete 10 M+ 15s, but only complete a full heroic raid, the Vault will offer you 3 choices of M+ eye level 226 gear, and 3 choices of 213 eye level raid gear. You will only get to pick one of these options you unlock per week. If you do not like any of the options presented, you can instead get some Shadowlands currency. Coming with Shadowlands are 8 new Mythic Plus dungeons. The biggest change in Shadowlands is the end of dungeon chest will now only drop 1 piece of gear. Additionally, the relative eye level of the end of dungeon chest is significantly lower than compared with BFA. This chart shows all the end of dungeon item level drops. Note that the highest at M+ 15 is only eye level 210, where heroic raid is eye level 213. During BFA, before 8.3, M+ 15 dropped heroic equivalent, and during 8.3 it was actually higher than heroic raid. In an effort to reduce the need to endlessly farm gear and the impact of RNG looting, Blizzard has changed the way sockets work in the Shadowlands. Currently, only helms, necks, bracers, belts, and rings will socket in the Shadowlands, for a total of 6 maximum sockets per character. Additionally, sockets will be farmable using currency from the Maw purchased at Venari. The process will be very similar to how you added sockets using the Eye of N'Zoth from Horrific Visions. Lastly, let's talk about endgame raiding and being combat ready. In this chart, you can see the item level of Castle Nathria's raid bosses. Shadowlands will be following the approach of BFA 8.3 in that the last 2 bosses will have higher item level than the rest of the raid. In order to obtain this strongest gear, you will need to be raid ready, so here are some tips and tricks to do that. First, let's talk about potions. All potion cooldowns in the Shadowlands have been homogenized. What this means is that health potions will have their own separate 1-minute CD along with health stones, but all battle and utility potions will now share a 5-minute CD. Additionally, the cooldown on these potions goes during combat, which removes the need for pre-potting. So instead of wasting half your potion while ramping up, you can now use it during the peak of your damage. Now let's get on to the more complicated subject, enchantments. Enchantments in the Shadowlands is reminiscent of vanilla WoW, where almost every single piece of gear will have some type of enchantment or stat boost. This chart I have made is an example of all the enchants you will need for a melee strength user like a paladin. Shadowlands includes cape, chest, and ring enchants for all classes. Wrist, hands, and feet are a little more complicated, but essentially each one has an associated main stat, so strength, intellect, or agility, and a quality of life enchant. For strength users, the main stat happens to be on the hands, so you can then get the 5-min Harf CD on the wrists and a lower fall damage on the feet. This will change depending on your class. Shadowlands is also bringing a large array of powerful new weapon enchants that do significant damage. Lightless Force is looking very strong right now, but please do your own testing to find which one works best for you and your class and spec. In addition to normal enchants, reinforcements are also being brought back, and they are rather big. Each reinforcement grants 48 stamina, and you can have 4 of them on at a time, on the chest, hands, legs, and feet respectively. Note that reinforcement is not a replacement of an enchant, but it is an addition. You can have both a normal enchant and also a reinforcement at the same time. These reinforcements, however, are not permanent and currently only last 2 hours. This means you might need 8 or more of them every day you raid, which can get very expensive. Similar to reinforcements, Shadowlands will also be bringing back sharpening stones and oils for weapons, which currently last 1 hour and can also give a damage boost. This means you may need 4 or more of those as well in a single raid day. The last thing to cover is flasks and food. Flasks are largely unchanged going from BFA to Shadowlands, and there's not much to say except they offer a 1 hour main stat boost. Food, however, has a new addition of a frontal damaging cone that damages all enemies once every few seconds, which is currently beating out all the other secondary buff foods by a good margin and is worth looking out for if it makes it to live. Personally, I am guessing that it will be nerfed as it is a little bit overpowered. But take a look. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and leave a comment below on what I should cover next. As promised, my 9.0 Shadowlands Retribution Paladin Guide will be coming in the next few weeks once tuning is done. In the meantime, I will be streaming frequently again at twitch.tv/gore_gaming. So make sure to check it out there. See you guys soon. Gorelock.